What's up, guys? Dr. Seth back to help you solve your powerlifter problems. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm going to be milking the shit out of this pack for content simply because it is a good opportunity to allow myself to share the process and share the perspective that comes along with dealing with bigger injuries. And a lot of the feedback that I have gotten so far is complimenting me in how positive I am and how well I'm handling it mentally. And what I want to get at today is yes, I am positive about it. Yes, I am handling it relatively well. But that does not mean that it's easy. That does not mean that there isn't doubt. That does not mean that there isn't fear. That does not mean that there isn't concern about my future in powerlifting. Because the reality is, when you have a big injury, you are going to have all sorts of shit fall into your head. And it's going to try to pull you down further and further and further. And as a lifter, as someone dealing with a big injury, it's going to be your job to do the best you can and acknowledge that those doubts and those fears are going to creep in, but they don't have to win. And when I'm saying dealing with a big injury, I'm not talking about like dealing with something that has to be surgically attached, because the biggest injury that you've had is the biggest injury that you've had and the biggest injury that you have ever dealt with. And no matter what, even if it isn't the biggest injury that you've had, like being hurt, being jacked up, being unable to do the things that you want to do for any amount of time is going to be frightening. And that is totally, totally, totally reasonable that you will have doubts just because you're in relatively uncharted territory. And with myself growing up, like I was fortunate enough to come up in motocross. I was fortunate enough to have raced a dirt bike from the ages of 4 to the ages of 17, and I've reached some pretty high levels. And the reason I'm saying I'm fortunate is because of the perspective that allowed me to gain. Just because in motocross, the injuries, they're way more fucked up than anything a powerlifter will ever experience. And they happen way, way, way more frequently. For a motocross racer, like it's almost a rare year to not have something that requires hospitalization. It's rare to make it through a career without needing multiple surgeries. Like by the time I was out of motocross, I'd broken 36 bones, had 10 surgeries, and had a lot of parts that were never going to work the same as they had before. And why I say that I'm fortunate because of that is from an early age on, like I learned that being hurt wasn't the end of the world. I learned that it's normal to come back from things. I learned that you don't have to let an injury impact your sporting career, your athletic career. It can be overcome. And the big difference in motocross culture versus powerlifting culture, I think comes from that. I think comes from the relative normalcy of big injuries, because like the first time that I had a big hit on a bike, like I was 6 years old and my radius and ulnar were sticking out of my skin in my arm, and I just kind of remember like there was no doubt whether it'd be okay. Like obviously my mom was stressed out by it, but like everyone else around me was like, "Oh, you're gonna be back on the bike in no time," and I believed it. That made that one easy. That made that one, I don't want to say fun, but like as a kid getting hurt, you don't know any better. And all you can do is be like, okay, I'm in a cast. I get to play my PlayStation all day long today instead of going to school. This is friggin' awesome. And kind of coming up with that has helped me learn how to deal with it better as a powerlifter. And in powerlifting, with big things not being as frequent, with big things being more abnormal, like it's not normal to have a pet blow off. Like it happens, but it's not like in motocross where you're pretty much guaranteed to, break multiple collarbones if you do it for multiple years. It's not like in powerlifting where you're not guaranteed to have something blow off. You're not guaranteed to need a surgery, although it does happen. Like it's not normal, but it isn't necessarily rare. And I think because of that in powerlifting, less people go through it. less people are used to it, and less people believe that they can come back. And the hardest thing with every big powerlifting injury that I've only had a handful compared to my motocross career, is that not the people, because like there are people being critical, there are people talking shit. And it's like I've learned to just ignore that. Like the people that are like, "Oh, you're a dumbass, you blew off your pec, you don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, fuck those guys. They don't know what they're talking about. They're all fucking losers. The hard thing is the people who mean well, that have either experienced it or not experienced and are projecting their doubts. And like they're coming from a place of they're trying to be empathetic, they're trying to express sympathy. But the DMs that have been the hardest to receive, the comments that have been hardest to receive are the ones that are like, "Oh no, poor you, you might never be back." And like those are the ones that fuel doubt. Those are the ones that make me go like, fuck, what if they're right? Even if in my heart I don't believe they're right, it still does channel doubt, and it still does make it hard to read that over and over and over again. And I'm grateful that people are reaching out. It's difficult to like, hear people tell me like, "Oh, I had the same pec injury and mine was never the same," or "Oh, I did this to my pec and it never worked again," or blah, 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 blah. And the big thing that I'm trying to like remind myself of is that I'm not them. And if I believe that I can come back, it's going to give me a shot at coming back. Because where you really don't want to fall with injury rehab is believing that you are screwed. You don't want to believe that you can't make it back. Because as soon as you fall into that pit of despair, into that pit of hopelessness, into that pit of, "I can't do this," it no longer becomes worth trying. And you're going to have doubts. What I'm trying to get across is there is no way that you will not doubt yourself. There's no way that you will not be afraid if you're sitting in my position with a throbbing, weird pec, arm in a sling. There's no way that it's not going to suck mentally. What you need to do is put yourself in a position where you are able to take the tiniest little steps and move forward. Because the biggest thing post-surgery, post-injury for me, to not let myself fall in that pit of despair, was to find the littlest things I could do and just try to be borderline productive. And if I could be borderline productive, if I can make some degree of tiny progress, no matter how small, it was letting me feel like, or it is allowing me to feel that I am doing what is necessary to come back. And as long as I'm doing that, it's helping me climb back out of that pit. It's helping me to know that I have a chance. And really right now, it's like I can bullshit and I can fluff and I can say like, "Oh, I'll be back, I'll hit a PR guaranteed, blah, 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 blah." Until it happens, I'm talking out of my ass. And until it happens, I am going to be terrified that my second attempt at the 496 that I hit in Edmonton will be my last PR. And it's like, being terrified is okay as long as you're able to use it to your benefit. Me being terrified that I will not be back is allowing me to do the right things, is allowing me to put in the effort, is allowing me to get my ass out of the recliner every day to do something for myself, to give myself a chance to make it back to the platform well. And that's where so many lifters falter with their rehab, is they want to believe they're screwed and they do nothing for too long, and they believe they're hopeless for too long, and by the time they kind of realize like, "Hey, I might have a shot," they're in a pit way, way, way bigger than it could be. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you have something surgically reattached that you should be benching the next day. Obviously I'm not. I'm sitting here in my sling because I probably did a little bit too much today and the thing is sore and the thing is tired, so I'm giving it a rest. I am not saying to rush the process. I'm saying to do what you can for yourself. And like, for me right now, that means getting steps in. That means nailing my diet. That means bending my elbow. That means isometrically contracting my rear delt and rotator cuff so that they don't shut off completely, so that when I am able to move the arm, my arm isn't going to be totally weak, useless garbage. I'll be able to actually do something with it. And it's like just doing these little things, knowing that, 2-3 weeks down the road, it's going to pay off and I'm going to be further ahead. That's giving me hope. And it's allowing me to channel the fear. It's allowing me to use that fear, use that despair, use that if I do nothing, I'm fucked, to push me in the right direction. Because you will doubt yourself. Like, this is the big thing I'm trying to get across is it's going to be normal to doubt yourself. When you're hurt, it would be unreasonable if you didn't doubt yourself. If I was all, happy, I'm going to be 100% guaranteed, blah, 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 with zero doubt, I would either be totally full of shit or some degree of psychopath, because that just, it's not real to not be in a position where you are not totally confident. And got to collect my thoughts here a little bit, but really, guys, like, when you're hurt, it's gonna suck. It's going to be hard. It's going to be scary, but you just have to do something about it. You just have to find a way to move forward. You have to find a way to be productive. And with this last week, in terms of life, the hardest thing was getting off of the recliner, coming upstairs to my office, and doing my job. Because really, like, when you feel hopeless yourself, as a coach, it's hard to want to help others find their own hope. Like, when I feel hopeless, when I feel hurt, when I feel like I'm trapped, my empathy just goes to shit, and I don't want to care about anyone but myself. And if I allowed myself to do that, like, I'm fortunate to have so many great clients right now, and I'm fortunate to have so many people that make me want to care about their outcomes, that, like, if I didn't like my clients, if I didn't like the people I'm helping, I would have just thrown my phone against the wall and not opened anything, not looked at anything, because that is how I felt this last week. And had I done that, I'd probably be in a hell of a lot worse shape mentally than I am right now, because, just making myself come upstairs and making myself help others even when I didn't want to, even though I didn't want to get off the couch and come up here today to my office, because I did it, I felt more accomplished. And because I did it, I felt like I did something good. And because I did it, every day that I've done it, it's been easier and easier and easier to do the next day. And that's really it. Like, the key to getting over this is accepting that it sucks, but realizing that if you are able to be productive, if you are able to use the doubt to challenge you, you're going to find a way through it, and you will be back. And I think the greatest fear of all for me is that, yeah, I still don't know if I'll be 100%. I don't know until it does happen. I won't be back until I put a PR on the bar. But if I quit, if I didn't try, 5 years down the road, there is no way that I wouldn't hate myself for it. And I think that is the biggest thing that's driving me to come back, is that I don't want to wonder what if. I don't want to wonder if I could have put more on the bar. I don't want to wonder if I could have overcome this challenge. I don't want to wonder if I made the wrong choice by stopping. And that is the big, big, big driver behind, for myself, is I don't want that regret. So I'm going to do all that I can to make sure that I do come back well. And that is what's helping me keep it together mentally, because if I didn't have that, if I didn't have that reason to try, I'd be a mess. And it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. And I don't want to come across as, this is so easy, this isn't a big deal. Because, yes, things could be far worse. I'm still alive, I'm still breathing, I'm still going to have some use of my arm no matter what. Things could be a hell of a lot worse, and I am fortunate for that. But that doesn't mean that it isn't hard, and that doesn't mean that no matter what injury you're dealing with, that you won't have similar thoughts and similar doubts. So the big thing is, guys, find a way to keep moving forward. Find a way to do something that allows you to be productive. And upstairs is going to start working a lot better. And as soon as upstairs starts working a lot better, you're going to start feeling a lot better physically. So thank you for watching that, guys. Sorry if I got a little deep, a little in the feels there, but I think it's important to be honest with this stuff and to be authentic with this stuff to help others get through it for themselves. So appreciate the hell out of you guys for watching. Hit the links below for stuff to help you, whether that is services or whether that is some free programs and whatnot. But appreciate the hell of you. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Have a good rest of your night.